He's worked for numerous tech companies, and of course, Amsterdam. Please help me welcome the infamous Robert Scoble. So, what does it feel like to be the Paris Hilton of tech?
I don't know, everybody wants to touch my glasses. No, it's been really great. I've been here about, I don't know, 5 years now, four or 5 years, and you guys always do a great job. So thank you for inviting me back. So Rackspace pays me to go around the world and study the bleeding edge of everything. You know, I went and visited Sun Valley and went and visited Scotty Vest, and they gave me the new jacket that came out last week. I have my iPad in here. I don't know if you know this clothing company, but there's lots of, it's a geek vest. I have a Facebook phone in here and a couple of Android phones. It's fun. So, you know, what I do is I study a lot of startups. On Flipboard, I have a startup news magazine. If you have an iPhone right now, you can read this. If you have Android, it's coming out in a week or two. In the past month, since this magazine feature came out, I've put 1,000 startup articles up on my magazine, which gives you a sense of how noisy this space is right now. But I watch what's going on. And last year, because I've been doing this for a while, I've been studying, you know, the world's tech press for a while. And last year, I started seeing a pattern, and I call it the age of context. I started seeing new things coming out that weren't just big data or weren't just Internet of Things. And then I started talking to entrepreneurs who were building new products that were contextual, that started learning who we were and what we were doing. So that led into writing a book that'll be out later this year and doing this talk about what it is. So what is context? It's 5 things. It's wearable computers. So I have a Basis watch on me that's studying my heart rate. I have a Moto camera that's taking a picture every 30 seconds. I have a Google Glass that lets me do things like, okay Glass, take a picture. And now I took a picture of that section. And we're seeing the number of wearable computers going up exponentially. I see a new one literally every week now. It's pretty crazy, and I don't see that trend slowing down. This is an Arduino board built into a jacket that 2 kids at a tech shop made for the CEO of Autodesk to wear on stage. Right now that's sort of an R&D project, but I imagine that will get smaller and smaller over time, and we'll see new kinds of electronic clothing that will do things in reaction to our environment and people around us. And that is an early adopter piece of gear. These green things are Bluetooth key tabs that spit a number into the air every few seconds, and they can be used for indoor positioning. The battery in them lasts a couple of years. So imagine that Boris put a few of those in this room, and we have a new device where we can actually see where in this room we are. And imagine a future glass where I could see everybody sitting in a virtual room. That would be interesting, and it would let us build new kinds of commerce and new kinds of internet wearable technology. Right? It's the second thing is it's big data and data computation. I don't like the term big data because it doesn't explain everything that's happening in the database space. I'm seeing a new database whether it be Foundation.db or Innovation for MongoDB or other database, Firebase. It seems like I'm seeing a new database every month, and the reason we're seeing a new database every month is because of the data flows that are coming off of our wearable computers and our sensors in our world. They are outstripping the SQL database capabilities. And the kids who are developing these new data technologies are learning from the flows on Twitter and other big data systems. And they're building new databases to enable a new world and a new always-on, always instant world where we're going to be able to ask our devices to get data and interesting information from these systems. The pictures I have here, that's the first Google computer, and it had, I think, 10 400 megabyte drives. Now, computer at the top is from Seagate. It has 10 terabyte drives. So it shows in 12 years how our world has changed, and the ability to have so much data on our desktop is really pretty crazy. I mean, I have 32 gigs in my glasses. That is far more than was in the original Google computer back in 1998. This is the Facebook computer here, and so on and so forth. The third thing I'm seeing is the amount of sensors is going up exponentially. Not just on us. I mean, I have 4 sensors here, 1 sensor here, 7 and 7 and 5, right? Not just the number of sensors on us is going up exponentially, but the number of sensors around us. My Nest thermostat is a sensor. These plant sensors are sensors. And I'm seeing a new sensor literally coming out every few weeks. I saw sensors in basketballs coming out to study how good you are at throwing a hoop or something like that. And it's just crazy. Add to the first 3, the wearable computers, the big data, the sensor data. We're seeing social network data continuing to go up exponentially. So Twitter is seeing 1 billion tweets every 36 hours right now, and that's doubling every 14, 18 months. It's like a Moore's law of social network data, and that's really changing what we're able to do. And the same thing, the 5th thing is location data. The amount of data about our world is getting sharper and sharper for the internet. And we're seeing things in Facebook, Foursquare, Waze, Google Maps. They're all getting more and more data every day about the world. And as we wear new wearable computers and we capture more data about our world as we walk around, that data stream is going to go up exponentially. So you add those 5 things up together, and I've already started sensing some sizable shifts. First, we're going to get a highly personalized world. This Google Glass is made for me. It's attached to all my information. If I give it to you, you're looking at my data. It's not your data, right? And I talked to General Motors, and we were talking about the cars of the future, and they said, well, you're going to sit in your car, and it's going to know who you are, and it's going to adjust the seat, but it's going to put on your favorite music, it's going to adjust the air, and it's going to know who you are at a very deep level. And this is a 3D sensor from PrimeSense. How many people have a Microsoft Connect? Okay, a few hands. I'm surprised by how few hands. This guy is the CEO of PrimeSense. It's an Israeli company, and he developed the 3D sensor technology and licensed it to Microsoft. That sensor is this big, and it costs about $200, $250. This sensor now is higher resolution, faster, is a stick of chewing gum, so it's far smaller, and it's less than $100. So the cost is coming down on these new sensors. This sensor is so accurate that if you put it on a projector when you demoed to me above a desk, a normal desk, and it was so sensitive it could tell how hard I was pressing the desk, and it could do pressure sensitive drawing on the desk. This is opening up new possibilities for a lot of startups. I've seen one of the startups here is a picture of a shopping aisle. So there's a company that's building shopping analytics with these 3D sensors. It's so accurate they can see which box you're touching or pulling out in real time. And here's a demo of that. This guy in green is pulling out a box of Cheerios, and it captures it in real time. So they're building systems, they're thinking about building systems where you walk around with your iPhone and you touch the box and it'll tell you something about it. And it'll even offer, hey, if you buy 3 of those boxes, you'll get 15% off automatically or something like that. It's also a highly anticipatory world that's coming at us. How many people have tried Google Now? A few. It's on your Android phone. It tells you, your plate. Like when I flew here, it told me my flights and it told me my gates. It told me whether it was on time or not. It's trying to anticipate my next move based on who I am, my context, out of my email, out of my calendar, and then bring me information about what I need to do next. My Google Glass is telling me for my next appointment I better leave because it's a little bit, there's a little bit of traffic there, right? On my iPhone, I use an app called Tempo, which came out of SRI, which brought a Siri. It looks at your email and your calendar and tries to make your calendar much more interesting and it shows you emails about your appointments. It goes out to the internet, finds accurate addresses. I did this when I went to Flipboard. I just put Flipboard on my calendar and found the right address. It was really cool. And we're going to see more and more systems like that that anticipate what we're doing next based on who we are, what we've done, where we've gone, who we're hanging out with. And we're just at the beginning of that trend, and Google Now is a good example of that. So, you know, the guy who started Keynote, which then became Google Earth, said by 2020, you'll be able to see everything in sharp detail. And he said, not just our cameras are going to be 4K, it'll be very, very sharp detail. And in fact, this is a prototype that somebody showed me at the Consumer Electronics Show. 2 guys built this in the garage. It has 2 1080p cameras and a TI chipset and can stream live video out to the internet for about an hour and a half on a single battery about the size of this one. But he also said we're going to have sharp detail about the world we're walking around in. Right now, I ask my Google Glass, where's the Starbucks? And it doesn't tell me. It doesn't know. I can sort of fake it by using a Google search, and it's sort of accurate. But think about all the things that you want to ask a wearable computer out the world. Where's the closest power outlet? Where's the Starbucks? Where's the bathroom? And so far the internet doesn't have that in very sharp detail. My friend and I were walking around and we're like, this is a crude world to the internet right now. It's going to get sharper and sharper every year. And by 2020, clearly we're going to be able to see a lot of detail about the world. It's so that's what's happening on the consumer side. And Plantronics CTO told me this is the biggest shift since the web came out in '94 for consumer behavior. And the people who've gotten to touch the Google Glass this week get a sense of that. This is a real deep shift for how we're going to live our lives and talk, and record video, take pictures, and get information that serves our lives. But for the businesses, so that's on the consumer side. On the business side, I'm seeing 2 things too. One, we're going to see our customers in extremely deep detail. So right now, I live right by the Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay, and according to Foursquare, I've been there like 240-something times. But when I walk into the Ritz, they don't know who I am. And certainly when I go to the Ritz in London, they don't know anything about me. They don't know that I checked in at a Ritz property somewhere else 240 times. In 5 years, that's not going to be the case. The Ritz is going to know who I am. They're going to know quite a bit of detail about me from Facebook and Google+ and Twitter, and I'll go into a little bit about how the world is already starting to study this. But this is a good example. This is Christy Wells, who started a social media club. She met Paloma Faith, who's a famous musician, and saw a concert. She clicked like on Facebook, and now Audience FM can track that for the performer and see how the audience is responding to her act. And she knows that in deep detail. In the future, the performers are going to be able to wear a wearable computer and see reactions from the audience. Right now, I can't see Twitter. I think by next year, I'm going to be able to see everybody tweeting and saying, oh, that guy's a douchebag, or that guy's doing a great job, and I'll be able to respond to you in real time. Think about what that means for speaking and performing. Plus, I'll have my notes here, and hey, remember to say this. I'm really looking forward to that. Right now, the Glass doesn't do much of that. Back to the second. So for businesses, you're going to know your customer in deep detail, and I think every business is going to be Uberized. How many people have used Uber here to get around? Okay, so Uber, you can see every piece of inventory on your mobile phone from a customer perspective. But the business can also see every customer in live time on a mobile phone. So Travis, who runs Uber, has deep detail on what's going on in his business. He knows how profitable it is today. He knows he soon will have contextual information that when the conference ends, that he should have 20 cars out front to meet the new customer demand that's going to come, right? Right now, the system's not that good, but it soon will be. And every business is going to be like this, where the CEO is going to have every piece of detail about his business on a cell phone, so you can look at it at 2 in the morning while walking around Amsterdam. And so a little bit more about what I'm seeing context bringing us. It's a personalized experience based on where we are. This company called TagWhat has an app on an iPhone, and as you walk around, it shows you Facebook offers from within a few yards of you. So as you walk around, it shows you the Facebook feed of the stores as you walk around. It's pretty crude and it's a little bit noisy, but it gives a sense of what is going to come in the future with this wearable computer, that as I walk through the world, I'm going to be able to ask the world, hey, does anybody have a deal for me right now on a pair of jeans? Does anybody have an interesting offer for lunch right now? Something like that. My local Ritz gives me 2-for-1 drinks at certain hours, right? And it shows me that when I'm walking by, and it does get you to go in. I went to JBL and Harman Kardon JBL. They make the speaker system in my Toyota, and wanted to see what they were doing. And Charles Sprinkle, I have a video up online, but he's an audio engineer there. He showed me how his work is changing, not just because of this contextual technology, but because of the other technology you're hearing about at the Next Web. He's using an Arduino board to make new compression algorithms for sound systems. He's using 3D printing to make new audio cabinets. And then he's thinking about contextual technologies to augment and personalize the product for you. You know, if you like more bass, or if you listen to Skrillex, you need a little bit different audio compression than if you listen to classical music. And it should know that, right? When you walk in the room, it should know what kind of person you are, and it should change its behavior. The product should change. So that led me to, it's going to affect every product and service. GoPro, here's the GoPro booth at the Consumer Electronics Show. Gary Shapiro next door runs the Consumer Electronics Show. But when I talk to the engineers at GoPro, they're worried about two things. They're worried about the miniaturization of cameras, because now we have a camera on our face. That takes away some of the specialness of the GoPro product, which was a wearable computer for skiers and surfers. But they're also worried that, man, we better make sure we are contextualizing our products to capture all sorts of information about the world. Taking a picture no longer is about capturing grids and pixels. It's about capturing the pixels and all the context. What was the weather like today? Where are we? What's nearby? Who's in the room? Who's in the picture? Because those things will make it easier to search for pictures. And certainly, you know, when you get something like this Momoto camera that's taking a picture every 30 seconds, that's more than 3,000 images a day. That data store is going to be pretty unsearchable very, very quickly if we don't have new contextual technologies to make things searchable. It also, you know, I'm starting to see new products because of sensors and contextual technology. Here's a product that is not yet on the market, but it's coming out soon, called Dysonics, and it puts a little sensor on your headphones, so it doesn't change the headphone. But by putting a little sensor, it knows where you're looking, sort of like this Google Glass knows where I'm looking. And it can, because of the compute power, it's getting cheap enough to redo audio or reprocess the audio in real time. He can keep the band here, even though I'm turning like this. My current headphones, the band goes like this, right? And so it dramatically changes what it's like to listen to music with headphones. And then he can augment the music and make it more interesting and sound a lot better. It's really a pretty cool product. Because the sensors are coming down in cost very, very rapidly, we're seeing new kinds of sensors and new kinds of use cases, even when you get the same kind of sensor. Here is a breathometer that's coming out this summer. It's a little box that you plug on the top of an iPhone, and it lets you sense your blood alcohol level. And it's fairly accurate. We tested it. But it's $20. Now, the police have had this kind of capability for years, right? But the one for the police is $400, $800. So normal people can't afford it, and you know, I don't want to buy a $400 breath sensor. It doesn't matter. But I might buy a $20 one, and certainly my brother who owns a bar is going to buy several of these because he's going to play a new kind of drinking game. Because the cost is coming down, humans are going to come up with new uses for these things and new things. He'll also use it to make sure nobody goes home driving drunk, right? But he'll play a drinking game. Have you had enough yet? This will increase his profits. It's a new kind of augmented reality. I went to Qualcomm and I've met with Augment, which is the company that's doing this. And because the speeds of our graphic chips, the speeds of our processors, and the quality of our displays is going up, we're able to see new kinds of augmentation that actually makes sense. I got tired of augmented reality for a while, but I think it's coming back. It might be another 18 months before it really gets good enough. But what Qualcomm's doing on Android phones is really pretty interesting. They're really doing a lot of work. They showed me all sorts of use cases for augmenting surgeries and other things. Certainly a big thing with context is health. And the Spaces monitor is watching my heart rate and my activity level, my perspiration. It knows whether I'm exercising or not, and it plays a little game with me and says, hey, man, you haven't done your 10,000 steps today. My wife has lost 40 pounds because of her Fitbit, right? Because it helps play a game, so she's urged to exercise. I'm trying to do this, but I like drinking beer too much and hanging out on the couch. But it tells me that, and it tells me how good my sleep pattern is. This is just the start. There's a lot of new sensors coming out that will be worn on skin, like a tattoo like this. And there's new ones that just came out last week that are blood glucose meters that put a little pin underneath the skin and pull out a few blood cells. This sounds invasive, but for a diabetic, this is far less invasive and far more regular than having to prick your finger and put it on the sensor and get your blood glucose level. And again, the cost is coming down, so you wear them and throw them away. And we're going to get new uses out of this. Qualcomm showed me a whole range of devices that they're hooking up via a new kind of wireless network that's easier for a person to set up at home than Wi-Fi. And they have a whole range of devices that you can get prescribed to take home and just plug in, and it can monitor your health of different kinds. And finally, I'm seeing a new kind of marketing. This is a company called Intank. So if you say something about wine, like I love Chardonnay, or I'm drinking Sutter Home and I'm having a good time, something like that, it'll study you. Right now, I think it's looking mostly at Twitter, but he's adding Facebook and other social networks. Right now, he's seeing 1.1 million tweets a day about wine at some level. Somebody mentioned Chardonnay or Cabernet or a wine brand, or said I'm going to Napa, something like that. And he's now turning the system contextual. So he's putting a geofence around each winery in Napa. And as you walk into that geofence and tweet from inside the geofence or Foursquare or Facebook, he'll know that and build a profile about you so that when you go around to different wineries, the winery will know when you walk in what you've been doing and what kind of wine you like and what kind of experience you need to have. The wineries are already starting to track or put you into queues based on who you are. One of the wineries has an Instagram queue. So if you say I'm an Instagram user, they're going to put you on a different tour than everybody else because they know you're going to tell a visual story, and they want to put you on a visual tour with a guide who understands, people who are on the Instagram world, and they're going to take you on a different tour than just a wine tasting tour. Everybody else gets the standard wine tasting tour. That's how customer service is going to start changing because of technologies like this and because of things like Highlight that show the brand when you walked in. While I was sitting in the winery talking to these guys, 5 people walked by who were using Highlight, which gives you a sense of what they could do with that. When I walked into the Bloomingdale's in New York with Highlight on, the head salesperson was on Highlight and helped me out and helped me find the jeans I wanted. And that's a new kind of customer service that just wasn't possible before mobile came along. So that's pretty much what I'm seeing. Why is Rackspace paying me for this? Because we're seeing all this stuff is going to use the cloud, and we've open sourced our cloud so that you can have your own data centers, put it on your phone if you want to, or put it on a competitor, which a lot of our competitors don't let you do. So that's important in this new world that's changing so fast. But anyways, I'd love to take I have 6 minutes so I can take some questions about what you guys were, if you guys are seeing anything happen in Europe that's similar along these trends.
Yeah, we're going to take some questions from the audience. So if you have a question, just put your hand up. But I just wanted to know, like, what's your vision for the future? Because if we're moving into this age of quantified self, where we can constantly adjust our behavior based on the data we're getting, what does it mean for human beings? Are we going to live longer? Are we going to be healthier? What is the long-term vision?
There's lots of people who are trying to do life extension with this. That's not what I care about. I care about having a better time tonight. So I'm using these technologies already to signal, hey, I want to go to a great restaurant, right? And the system, not just the system, but my friends here are going to say, hey, you better go to this new restaurant that just opened last month, and it's extraordinary, and you'll have the best time. This has happened every week for the past month, that someone, or the system itself has brought a new experience into my life that I would not have had without these mobile and social technologies that are evolving very quickly. So that has deep implications for business, for humans. We're going to have a better time. Yes, you can use it to make yourself healthier. I look at it differently. I look at it like, I want to have a better time tonight. I don't care if I live longer. That's not something I really care about. There are people who care about that, and God bless them. But I just want to have a better time tonight, right?
We'll give you a good time tonight.
All right.
All right, hands up.
It's Amsterdam after all.
One here.
Hello, thank you very much. In the context of our brain being functionally one-way input, output, we can do both. All these new kinds of informations, what do you think about already we have information overload? Yeah. So how will we have output? I have so much input. I've never met a noise filter I didn't like. And I use a lot of noise filters, particularly on Gmail right now. We don't have good enough noise filters on the social web yet. But Gmail, how many people use the Gmail Smart Labels feature? This is extraordinary. And if you're not using it, you're really screwing up. This is the most productive new thing in Gmail. You go to settings and go to labs and turn on smart labels. And that's a new noise filter. It takes stuff like Facebook status messages and puts it in its own folder and gets it out of your inbox. And it takes promotional emails and gets it out of the inbox. And it takes group emails and puts it in its own inbox. It makes you so much more productive, just that one little noise filter. And that's what we need with this Google Glass. We need more filters like that that are going to filter out what's coming at us and filter out and make sure that we see only the good stuff at the right time. The Google Glass, by the way, is really interesting because when a text comes in, it chimes. Right? I just hear it. It does not turn on my glass. So right now, it does not disturb me. And that's a noise filter of its own. So later, I can go through my text after the speech is over and not get disturbed while I'm on stage. Right? But soon we're going to need a lot of noise filters on this to pick the right thing at the right time. Today, this glass is not very contextual. Google is working on a new operating system for the glass that's going to know what you're doing. So it's going to know that you're skiing, or shopping, or walking, or running, or giving a speech. There's a company in Europe called Moves. Who has Moves on their iPhone? Yeah, wow, that's great. So Moves is on your iPhone, and it studies your context. What are you doing? And it knows 4 contexts already. It knows walking, running, biking, or driving. Now, I tried going skiing with it, and it didn't know what to do because it didn't understand the pattern of skiing. I interviewed the entrepreneur who built this, and he says, I'm going to add skiing very soon because I am studying the pattern, the sensor pattern of what it feels like to ski to the sensors. I can understand that for walking, right? It's fairly easy. Or running, right? The sensors know that you're running. But the contextual systems are not quite there yet. It's very early days.
Maybe it was just your skiing.
Maybe.
All right, questions?
Question in the back here.
Yeah.
Hi. So we're constantly talking about how there's a bunch of information out there, how we're now going to be collecting everything about ourselves and how that is going to make businesses do better and consumers do better. But I think something that's kind of gotten out of this consideration is the whole political problem of this situation, right? So what is this going to mean for us as citizens, not only as business people or customers?
We argued a little bit about that last night with Andrew Keen about privacy. I look at technology as always having a good and bad, right? Cars, for instance. 37 or 35,000 people a year die in cars. That's bad. That's about the worst consequence to technology that we could have. Yet we all drive every day, and we take that risk because there's a lot of good. We like to drive to different places and go see friends and go to work and earn a living for our families. So there's a good and there's a bad. And there is going to be a bad to these technologies that some governments are going to misuse and study their population or control their populations in new ways. But there's also going to be a good. For instance, I'm already being routed around traffic by Waze. So Waze sees a blockage on the road and routes me around. Now, the government could use that to understand where I went, but it has a good and a bad. And there's going to be lots of conversation points for a long time about this good and bad to these technologies.
I mean, you actually tweeted that you were in the bathroom with your glasses,
Yeah.
and the press hated this because they were like,
Now I do this, so at least you know.
It's a violation of privacy, but at the end of the day, you could still have your phone and be recording a video.
Yeah.
It's the same technology, it's just changed form.
Yeah, it's not on all the time. I wasn't recording in the bathroom, but it could have potential perception that I'm recording. So I might get punched in the face if somebody perceives that I'm recording them, even though I'm not. So to get around that problem, I put my glasses up. So that's something I learned in the first week of getting these things, right? Our behaviors are going to change based on our social cues from each other. What's acceptable, what's not. Is it acceptable to turn this on in a coffee shop or the red light district? We're going to get cues from each other and maybe a legal cue or two. We might get thrown in jail if we use them the wrong way. But we're going to figure that out. And there will be good and bad to this stuff. Yep.
Hi, Robert. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Do you have any specific vision about how this will affect art? Like the organic way of doing art? Painting, illustrating?
I've talked to some museums already. They want to use these technologies to augment your experience with art in museums. And they certainly want to study your pattern, right? When I went to the museum in Washington, D.C., they have a 9/11 exhibit there, and they knew the dwell time of each visitor was 45 minutes. How did they know that? They had somebody sitting there studying each visitor and timing them as they went through the exhibit so that they knew where the demands were in their museum. Soon they're going to be able to study that algorithmically, right? Is that bad or good? I think it's good because it's going to let the museum build new experiences and figure out what's not working about some displays and what's really working about other displays. So, and then we're going to have new kinds of art, right? Thanks to screens like this and interactive experiences and 3D sensors, artists are going to have a field day building new kinds of art that's going to be interactive and changeable as we walk through it or experience it.
Do you have one last question?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And